Cool. Huh. So did that work? So now if I go to... Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. That is very cool. Okay. This is great. Yep. Yep. There it is. Okay, cool. All right. I can't believe I figured that out. That's great. We're going to quickly clear that and restart it. And yep. And we're going to add. Basically, just going to go. Learning. Edit. Add record. 612. 5. 32. 42. Save. Great. Okay. So now we're going to start where we left off with PHP. So we were looking at while loops. And yeah, this is great. Should my face be bigger? Well, we'll see. We'll figure it out. So without further ado, let's do this.
In the previous chapter, we looked at the first type of control structure, logical expression, which let our code make choices about how to proceed. In this chapter, we're going to be looking at the other main type of control structure, loops. Loops allow us to write code that will execute more than once without having to write out all that code over and over again. The code executes once, and then it loops back to the start to execute again. And each time the code executes, it doesn't necessarily do the exact same thing. The values of variables may be changed each time it goes through the loop. So the logical expressions inside the loop do different things. And of course, a critical feature of any loop is knowing when to stop looping. We're going to take a look at three types of loops: while loops, for loops, and for each loops. We're going to begin with while loops. I think these are the simplest. The syntax is simply while, followed by an expression,
While.
argument to it,
Very
and
typical.
then a statement. The statement is the loop. It's the thing that we're going to do over and over again while the expression evaluates to true. Now, with a single line statement, this will work. But most times you're going to have a multi-line statement, and I also think it's just a good practice to always use those curly braces. Makes it very clear what's inside the loop and what's not. And notice how similar the syntax is to our if statement. In fact, if you swapped out the word while for if, it'd be exactly the same. And the expression part works exactly the same way. It's going to be a Boolean expression that's going to evaluate either true or false. So what happens is it says, while the expression is equal to true, do this block of code. Start at the top and do all of these statements, and when you get to the bottom, come back to the top again and reevaluate the expression.
Can't decide where I should
Is it
be.
still true? If it is, go through and do all the statements again until you get to the last curly brace. Then back to the top, evaluate that expression again. Once it evaluates
It's not
the
terrible.
false, well, now we don't do it anymore. We're only doing it while it's
Yep.
true. So
Yep.
now,
And it can
jumps
easily
back
last
down to the
forever.
curly brace.
While loops
Does not
can
execute that
easily
final
last
time.
forever.
We move on with the rest of our PHP code from there. Let me give an example.
OBS,
Let's say
baby.
we have while the variable count is less than or equal to 10. So as long as that's true, as long as count is less than or equal to 10, we're going to echo the count and then add 1 to it. Then we'll go back to the top and we'll check again. Is count less than or equal to 10? And if it is less than or equal to 10, we'll echo the count and then add 1 to the count and go back to the top again. So you can see what's going to happen here. Let's say count started out being 0. Well, the first time through, count is less than or equal to 10, so it executes. This time, count is equal to 1. Still less than or equal to 10, so the loop executes. It keeps on going until finally count is equal to 11. When count is equal to 11, it's no longer less than or equal to 10. It's false. And at that point, it stops executing the loop. Now, two things about the loop are critical.
Literally
The loop
nothing
needs
new.
to have a condition,
Bad
an
video
expression
settings.
that will allow it to execute. And number two, something about the condition has to change during the course of the loop. If not, you'll end up getting an infinite loop. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say that we didn't have count plus equal 1 in there. We just took that line out. Well, now the first time through, let's say count is equal to 3. 3 is less than or equal to 10, so we'll echo 3. Go back to the top of the loop. 3 is less than or equal to 10, so we'll echo 3. We'll just keep going. We'll just keep outputting 3s over and over and over again. We have to have some relationship between what's happening inside the loop and the condition that's above it. Something has to eventually change so that now the behavior of the loop will be triggered and we won't just be going infinitely through it. Let's try some examples for ourselves. So to start with, I'm going to open basic.html, some simple HTML that I've created. I'll do save as. We're going to call this while loops.php. Call it loops while. So let's just try our very first loop here. And let's do the example that we just had. Let's do count equals 0, and then while, and then our expression. You can have the space here or not. And then while count is less than or equal to 10. And then inside our curly braces, what do we want to do each time? So until count gets to 10, we're going to echo count. I'm going to go ahead and put a comma after it, concatenate the comma with that period. And then I'm going to do count, and I'm going to use plus plus just to show you. Remember on the slide, I did it using count plus equals 1. Well, count plus plus does the exact same thing. This just increments count. Remember that? So I'll just make a note here. Increment by 1, just so we don't forget. And then let's save it, and let's try it out. Let's come back over here to Firefox.
We need to go advanced output.
For me, it's going to be Kevin Skogland. Expression evaluates to true. So it outputs it again. Keeps incrementing. Finally, let's look at the top. When we get to 9, 9 is less than or equal to 10. So it outputs. It becomes 10. 10 is less than or equal to 10. So it outputs the 10. And then it becomes 11. It goes back to the top. Now count is equal to 11, which is not less than or equal to 10. So it this last time, it drops right down to here. And just to make sure that you see this, let's do echo br and echo count colon, and then let's output the value of count here. So after the loop is completely done, let's take a peek at what count is in that last time. See? There it is. So it's equal to 11 after the loop is done. Now, as I said, going through a loop doesn't have to do the same thing each and every time.
Let's do that one out. So I'm just going to write out what's going on right here. So basically, you got your PHP delimiter that we've come to love. And then, we'll amend that. All right, there we go. We'll make a variable called count, assign it the value of 0. And then the while loop takes a condition in parentheses, so we'll say while count is less than or equal to 10, there's a logical operator, execute the following block of code, which will be an echo of the count property, or the count variable, I'm tired, concatenated with a comma, and then we will increment the variable. This is pretty standard stuff. Yeah, so you can just do the count plus plus. Great. And then at the end of that, we're going to echo br. And then we're going to echo the final count to show that after the while loop is complete, because it is less than or equal to 10, the loop will echo the count before it increments the count. So you'll see everything echoed through 10, but the variable count afterward will be 11. So count, then in curly braces, $sign count. So Just going to get rid of all this. And put it in right there. So, all right. Yeah, my face might be a little too big. I'm going to move it. Let's try moving my face. Sorry about that. Put it right over there and make it a little bit smaller. Zoop. Okay. So let's run that and take a look. Yep, so there we go. And it has that comma afterward, but the count is 11, even though the while loop is less than or equal to 10. So far, so normal.
Basically, the values did change, and it went from 0 all the way up to 10, which was nice. We had one little bit of very simple code that actually did something different each time through the loop. We can do even more than that. Let's do an if statement. Let's say if the count is equal to 5, my curly braces, and I'm just going to go ahead and do else. I'm going to copy this, paste it in here. All right, so if it's not equal to 5, the else
so on the one time it goes through to equal to 5, do something special, which we're going to echo
word 5,
5,
the comma after.
Right.
Save it.
Which means it will skip over doing what would else be done for 5.
Different when it gets to 5.
Good.
It's a very simple
Typical
example.
while loop.
If you think for a second, you can see how it would be applicable. How you would say, all right, if I'm outputting a set of pictures, every 5th picture, I want to put in a different bit of HTML. Maybe you want to do a line break after something, or you want to finish a UL tag and start a new one. Now, I just want to point out what I was talking about with having a relationship between what happens in the loop and making sure that it will exit. If we were to take this count plus plus, imagine that we moved it up here. Imagine that it was inside that else statement. Do you see what would happen? It's going to loop infinitely, because what's going to happen? It's going to get to 5, and then when it gets to 5, it's going to stop incrementing.
Yep.
It's just going to keep looping and looping and looping and looping. It's important that we make sure that regardless of what conditional statements get executed, we still end up with a loop that will eventually break out. Now, if you were to do this and you create an infinite loop, PHP will eventually time out. The page will say, okay, I've tried this for long enough. This seems to be an infinite loop, and I'm going to give up.
Oh, so PHP will time out for a loop. I'm sure that's just setting. Yeah. I'm getting a call. Decline that.
It's not something you typically need to modify. So on your own, I want you to try to make a new example. And in your example, I want you to try and have a different behavior for even numbers and odd numbers. So that as you go through a loop and it counts up, even numbers and odd numbers are handled differently. I will give you a helpful hint though. It might be useful for you to use the modulo operator. That's the % sign. And that tells you whether a number divides evenly by another number or not, by returning the remainder.
Yeah, this is pretty typical
the remainder once you do
challenge.
The count, modulo 2 tells us how many are left over if we divide count by 2. Give that a shot and make sure that you have an understanding of how while loops work. And we're going to look at for loops next.
So basically the logic that they want us to implement is while count is even, well no, while the count is less than 10, and then within that we want an if count, if it's even, if count modulo 2 equals 0, and I use 2 equals for that, then we're going to echo, count, and I use the $sign for the variable, is even. And then the else is going to be another code block, which is going to echo the variable count is odd. And then either way, it's going to do a plus plus to increment. So you can see my final code is going to be that. Let's take a look. I think this will work. Oh yeah, we should probably add a BR. Just to make this legible. Right, so then we go. All those. And then I removed the less than or equal to, so it wouldn't actually include. I can include it. That's fine. Include 10, but then we don't need to echo the final count. Actually, we will, and we'll move this up so that it increments before. And now it shouldn't exceed 10. So now I believe the final count will be 10, and it will also include 10 if we do less than 10. There we go. Boom. Problem solved.
So we will look at for loops. For loops
For
are very
loops.
similar to while loops. You repeat a section of code until a
For
condition is met,
loops.
but the syntax used for doing it is very different. Why have both then? Well, probably because for loops are the most classic kind of loop that there is, and they're used in many other programming languages. And some people prefer the more compact syntax of for loops. Let's take a look at that syntax now. A for loop looks very similar at first, except for the expression part. Instead of having one expression in parentheses, we're going to have 3, separated by semicolons. And each one's going to perform a different function.
Okay.
Expression 1 is going to be
This is
executed
similar to
first
C.
time only.
This was
That's
adapted
an
in C.
initializing
Yeah.
statement before the loop starts. Expression 2 is the test expression that's going to be checked at the start of each loop, just like the expression that we had in the while loop. Expression 3 is going to be executed at the end of every loop, right after the loop finishes, right before it goes back and evaluates expression 2 again. Perhaps a better way to think of it is as initial, test, and each. So there's the initial value, there's the test that it's going to perform each time, and then each time through, the last thing that it's going to do is execute that each statement. Now this syntax will work for a single line statement, but just like we saw with the while loops, I think it's a good practice to always put curly braces around it. If we have a multi-line statement, those curly braces are required. We have to have it. So I'm going to suggest that it's the best practice for you to always use those curly braces anytime you have a for loop. And then we can tell what's being looped across. It's everything inside those curly braces. All right, so I haven't really fully explained how initial, test, and each work in practice. Let's actually go to some code so we can try it out and see how they work. So to start with, I'm going to open up basic.html. I'll just do save as on this, and we're going to call this one for loops.php. Call it loops : 4. All right, now to begin with, I'm actually going to paste in a while loop. While loop example. And I want you to see this while loop because the way that it relates to the for loop, I think will help for loops make a lot more sense to you. So let's write our for loop now right below it. Let's try to accomplish the exact same thing that the while loop does. So we're going to have our PHP tags, and then let's start with for, and then we have our initializing statement, right? That's the first argument. The thing that we're going to do at the beginning is initialize. So we did some initialization up here. Look at this. Count equals 0. We initialized the value count before we did the while. Well, that's exactly what we want to do here. That's our initialization. Here it was on a separate line. Here it's inside the arguments to the loop. Now, right after that, we need a semicolon. So we have a second statement after that. And the next statement is going to be the expression of what we do each time through it. I told you that was exactly like the while loop. So we're just going to copy that and put that in there. And then the last one, remember, is something that happens at the end of every loop, right before it goes back again. Well, let's look at our while loop. What are we doing each and every time? We're incrementing. And that's probably the most common thing that happens in this third expression. We could also decrement. It could be count minus minus, or it could do something much more complicated. It could divide by 2 or multiply by 4. All sorts of things could go there. But typically the most common one is just to simply increment. So now that we have that, we just need to put our curly braces, and then what are we actually going to loop? What's the business that we want to do each time we go through this loop? Well, there it is right there. We're just going to take count, and then so some people like this syntax better. We're doing all the initialization, we're doing the incrementing, we're doing the testing, all in one line. It's all kind of
and that can be
out of the way right there at
based
the start.
off of
and then
a value. It doesn't have to be
is
explicitly
a little more
stated.
isolated. It has nothing to do with the business of looping. It really is just the thing that we want it to do each time through. So let's try it just to make sure that this works. Let's give ourselves a BR tag here so we can separate that out from the one before it. Let's go to Firefox, and instead of while loops, we're now going to open up for loops. And there we go. So you did the exact same thing right underneath it. Now, just like we had with while loops, we can do all the same things. You want to watch out for infinite loops, and you can have if statements inside here that do conditional operations. So as another example, let's look at the loop that I gave you as an assignment at the end of the while loop section, something to do on your own. Let's try those results here. So we'll do BR tag, and then I'm going to paste in a for loop. It's going to start out with count equals to 1. Count is, while it's less than 20, it's going to keep executing. And each time it's going to increment count. Now, just to see the difference, let's just try it in reverse. Let's say count is equal to 20 to start with, and as long as count is greater than 0, then we're going to keep going. So we're going to count down, and we're going to count down by doing minus minus here at the end. You also could do minus equals 1 if you wanted. That does the exact same thing. Now, here's the
I wonder if you can do anything
loop.
besides
This count
increment or
modulo
decrement.
2 is
Probably
equal to
doesn't
0. That means
make much
if I take count
sense.
and divide it by 2, if there is no remainder, right? If it divides evenly, then it is 0. Nothing left over, then I'll know that it's an even number. Otherwise, it's not. So let's just try that out. Let's go over here to Firefox. Let's reload. There it goes. 20 is even, 19 is odd, all the way down until we get to 1 is odd.
Yeah.
So
That's about
hopefully
right.
you see how that works, and you see the relationship between a while loop and a for loop. And they're basically doing the exact same thing. It's just a different syntax and a different way of writing it. Use whichever one feels most comfortable to you. They both accomplish exactly the same thing. It's just a matter of personal style and taste.
So just to reiterate, so for the for loop, you need 3 values, or 3 expressions rather, in the conditions that are, so you have for the for loop, say for, in parentheses, you have the initial condition in which I believe you can either set a variable that didn't exist prior, or just any variable you want, but it should probably be a variable used specifically for the loop. So that's the initial, and then the final is the last time that loop is set to run, and then the last expression is when you increment. So let's do an example. So let's start by calling an array and assigning it value of Bill, Ted, Beavis, Butthead, right? And then we're going to do for, and then I equals 0 through I equals 4, I plus plus. You don't need a semicolon there. Then the code block we can execute is going to look like this. Echo bracket notation I br. So if I'm right, that should echo the index I for each string in that array. And I guess I need the $sign to call that a variable, right? Unexpected end of that. Do I not want, oh, maybe I want this. That's what I want. Okay, what am I doing wrong? The array is assigned with 4, 0 to 3. That's what I want. Okay, let's ignore that and let's just call echo I. Make sure that part's working. Run. Okay, that's not even working. Do we need to declare it beforehand? So okay. Let's try reloading the page. Make sure everything's working. All right. Let's try this. Here we go. Nada. Okay, the array is looking good. Maybe I have to call array. I don't know what kind of version they have going here. I think the array was fine. Well, okay, let's look at the documentation for for loops. So, PHP for loops. Initial counter, test counter. Oh, as long, yeah. I'm an idiot. Okay. As long as this is less than or equal to 3 is what I meant. And then you do want the curlies because you always want curlies. Let's try that. 0, 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to echo and then BR. But what I really wanted was the array with the index of I, right? So that's what I had before. I was just forgetting that the test is a test. So the first thing is initialization, the second expression is a test, and then you increment or decrement. There we go. So now we're echoing each indexed item within the array. Boom. And it ends at 3. So if it's less than or equal to 3, then of course it will still be 3 once we increment I to equal 3, which means that we will get the string at the third place in the index printed out. Perfect.
Loops are a little different from the previous two types.
Now, what the hell is for each?
For each loops are going to take an array.
No idea.
And loop through each item of the array until it gets to the end. If you think back, while loops and for loops know whether to quit or to keep looping by testing if a condition has been met. For each loops, on the other hand, are going to know whether to quit or whether there are items left in the array to loop over. The end of the array is what ends the looping. There's really just two approaches to looping. Let's use a real-world scenario for a second. Imagine that I have a classroom with 20 kids in it, and I have to put name tags on all of them. And I could just go around the room, and I could put a name tag on each kid and keep track of the numbers as I went. And knowing that there are 20 kids, when I had gotten to the number 20, I would know I was done. Or, since I know that I have a finite set, I could just line them all up, start at the beginning, and move down the line. And when I got to the end of the line, I would know I was done. I wouldn't have to keep track of the count as I was going. And I could count. I could certainly know that I was on the fourth kid, but I wouldn't have to. I could just start at the first kid, go to the second kid, then to the third kid, until I got to the end of the line. That's how for each loop works. The syntax is also a little bit different. We have for each, and that's for each all run together, no spaces, no underscores, anything like that. It's for each.
For each.
And then in parentheses we have a special
For
statement.
each.
The first thing we're going to
Array
provide
as
is the array
value
that we're
statement.
looping through. So that's what I've got there with the variable array.
For
It doesn't have to be
each.
called array. It's a
This
placeholder
is like
to
a
show you that
built-in.
that's where the array goes. And then we've got this special keyword as. It's part of the for each statement. It's a special keyword that it uses. And then we have another variable after that called value. Now value also can be named something else. what it's doing though is that each time it goes through the loop, each item in the array is going to be assigned to this variable value. Value is just now being defined here. Array is the value that existed before the for each statement. Value doesn't. Value is something that we're creating right now for use only inside the loop. And then each time through the loop, we have access to that variable. And that variable is a reference to the item in the array that we're currently working with. If that seems at all fuzzy, don't worry, it'll make a lot more sense when you see an actual concrete example. Now, just like the other loops, though, I think it's a good practice for us to put curly braces around our loop so it's very clear where the loop starts and stops. With a single-line statement, it's not necessary, but a multi-line statement is definitely the case. Now, I want you to notice something else in this for each statement. It's the same thing that I told you at the beginning. Notice that there is no condition here. There's no condition, and there's no mechanism for incrementing, right? Those are two things that both of the
Right, so the mechanism for conditioning is the array.
Know when it should exit the loop, and it incremented. This one doesn't. Why not? Well, because the condition for exiting is when it gets to the end of the array. And it doesn't need to increment because it knows when it gets to the bottom of the loop, it knows what it should do. It should go to the next item in the array. So both of those are missing here. All we're doing is saying, for each one, assign it to this variable, and then do the loop. Let's try an example. An example will make this clear. So let's open up basic.html again, and let's do save as. This time we're going to save it as for each loops.php. And call it loops for each, no spaces. So I'm just going to paste in our first example here. I've got an array filled with numbers, and I'm assigning it to the variable ages. And now here, I have my for each loop. And it's going to take that array that ages points to, and as age, so each one of these values is going to be assigned to the variable age temporarily. Notice the difference here is singular and the plural, right? Age and ages. Ages was defined before. Age is just now being introduced here. Now, each time through the loop, I have access to the age right here to use.
So we haven't defined the value. We just give it a value. We define the variable within the condition of the for each loop.
Age 4, 8, 15, and so on. Every time it goes through the loop, the next item is assigned to age so that I can work with it. And it just moves down this list. If there are 6 items in the array, well then it's going to loop 6 times. This is very useful when you want to traverse an array. Imagine that you have a list of a user's last 15 orders that you want to output array. Well, that's an array. 15 orders are an array. You could use a while loop or for loop as you iterate through those. But the for each loop really works better because the for each loop says, all right, start at the beginning of these orders, and let's start going through them. When we get to the end, we're done. Loop through it however many there are. If there's 15, show off 15. If there's 20, let's show 20. And it's especially nice because then each time through the array, the customer's order would get assigned to a variable called order. So we have everything we need to then output the same way that we're working with age now. And you may be asking, this works for regular arrays, but what about associative arrays? Remember we talked about associative arrays before, where they have a key and a value? We just have to modify our syntax slightly to make associative arrays work with for each. The overall structure is the same, but we're going to have array as, and then we're going to have 2 variables that we're going to assign. One for the key and one for the value. Now, they don't have to be called key and value, they can be called anything you want. The important part is that we have 2 variables. And between them, we have the equals greater than sign, just like we use in the associative array to separate our keys and values. Let's try an example using associative arrays.
I mean, that's the same idea, right? So it's just iterating over an array.
Pause the movie if you need to copy this down. What I've got here is a person.
You could accomplish, I mean, you could really,
an array of data.
honestly,
It's labeled. First name,
accomplish the same thing as this by doing a while loop, and while array index I is not empty, is essentially what for each is. It's just giving you, it's just convenient. I mean, it is a new way for me to loop through an array. If you just want to loop through every single item in an array. And I guess you could use it for finding things too, because if you find what you're looking for, you could just stop looping. right? Just use that as a marker to stop looping. That would do it.
Date set, right? All that information. And then for each item in person as, I'm calling it the attribute and the date, not key and value. These are the key and the value. That's the technical name for it. This is the key, this is the value. But I'm going to be assigning to the variables attribute and date. Now the next line here, I've got a couple of string functions at work. We talked about some of these before. We have UC words and string replace. What I'm doing is cleaning up this attribute, which uses underscores in it, in lowercase, to make it look nicer. Take away the underscores and uppercase the first words. I'm calling that attribute nice, and then I'm outputting attribute nice in the data. Take a look. Save it. Back over to Firefox. Reload it, and there we go. First name Kevin, last name Scope, address 123 7. So that works. I specifically wanted to show you this example by using the UC words and string replace.
Yeah, so you're uppercasing words. Hold on. Let me go back.
Kevin, last name Scope.
Yeah. So you're taking the first letter, string replace, underscore with that, and then echo. Oh, yeah. It equals the uppercase version of... Okay, so this line, attr underscore nice variable is getting assigned the uppercase version of the attribute after being passed through the string replacement function, which will replace any underscores with a space. And the uppercase words does the heavy lifting for, yeah, that makes sense. So this one line will parse any all lowercase one word key into a nice user-facing label. Got it. And then you echo the parsed attribute colon and then the data which has not been parsed, and then just a B.
That's the name of the database field, and we would want to clean that up before we show it to the end user. We don't want to show them all the underscores and everything. We want to show them some things that look nicer.
I wonder if there's a way to get
array example before
the output of PHP into HTML without using echo.
Array, and I've got brand new computer, 1 month of Lib.com, and learning PHP with the keys. The values are 2000, 25, and null. So I assign that to prices. For each item in prices, I'm going to assign those to item. Each of these are items, and each of these are prices. Each of these is going to be assigned to price. That's what they are, they're prices. And then as I iterate through each of these, I'm also going to have a conditional statement here. It's going to check to see whether or not price is an integer. It'll be true for the first two, but not for the last one. And so let's go ahead and load that up over here. A little bit of a joke. Using brand new computer, $2,000, 1 month of Link.com, $25, learning PHP prices. Hopefully you now understand how for each loops work. Whenever you're working with an array, you should first think about using for each loops before you go to one of the other types. Because for each loops are tailor-made for working with arrays. So if you have an array, chances are for each loop is what you want. We've now taken a look at 3 types of loops: while loops, for loops, and for each loop.
Oh yeah, I've always wondered about
learn how to use the functions continue and break to get more utility and flexibility from these loops. We'll start with continue. Continue is used inside a loop to skip the rest of the current iteration and to go immediately to the condition evaluation that starts the next iteration. It may sound silly, but for me, continue evokes the image of a Hollywood casting director shouting, "Next!" in the middle of an audition. It's like saying, "You've seen enough, thanks, let's skip ahead to the next one." To give you an example, let's imagine we have a database of college students, and our code is going to loop through them and send them all in here. But if the student is already signed up for a biology course this semester, then we aren't going to send them the email. So we start the loop, we check to see if the student is signed up for biology, and if so, then we know that we don't need to do any further processing at all. We can just skip to the next student record. That's what continue allows us to do, and it makes our code more efficient. Let's see an example. So let's open up basic.html, and let's do save as.
This isn't that important, like, as long as you know that continue is a keyword found in PHP. Like,
and I'm going to start with just
whatever.
A basic for loop. So here's the same for loop we were looking at before, just counting the numbers 0 to 10.
It's like a one-liner, right?
We saw an example earlier where we said if the count is equal to 5, then do some different behavior, right? We output something different. Instead, this time, I'm going to have it just do continue. That's our continue function. So continue with a semicolon. That's the only thing.
Right,
Let's
so
save it.
skip
Let's bring it up in our browser and look at what it
print.
looks like. So here I'm in Firefox, and instead of for each loops, let's go to continue. There it is. I think this makes it really clear what continue does. We get to the number 4, and there is no number 5. It picks up again with 6. Let's go back and look at the code. When it's 4, well, it doesn't meet this condition here, the if statement, so it outputs 4. Then 4 gets incremented to 5. Count is still less than or equal to 10. Now count is equal to 5, so we continue. Continue tells it to immediately loop. That increments the counter to 6. It checks and sees that 6 is less than or equal to 10. This time, it echoes the 6. One way that you can think about it is that there's an implicit continue at the end of every loop. Now, we don't need to actually write it out there because it's built into the looping structure. But what we're doing in this case is we're telling it to loop earlier. Instead of having to wait till we get to the continue that's at the end of the loop to tell it to loop again, we have this continue here, telling it to do it when we want. Now, if you're doing something so simple as this, I just want to remind you that white space doesn't matter. Something like this would do just as well. I'm going to change this to be a modulo operator with %2 equals to 0.
Right.
Let's just bring that and try it.
So if it's
And that basically
even,
says that
then get
we're
rid of the
not
even
the
numbers,
odd
yeah.
numbers, right?
Yeah.
Whenever the remainder of dividing count by 2 is equal to 0,
So it's useful for
then we're going to
skipping
skip over it. And we
things
don't do
within a
anything. We don't
for
do any
loop.
further processing, but it never gets to this
Or-
echo statement. Now you may be tempted to
in a
think
while
that we
loop.
could use an if statement instead. We could do something like this. If the remainder of dividing by 2 is not equal to 0, then echo it out. Otherwise, don't. Right? That kind of misses the whole point of why continue is useful. With a simple one-line statement like this, they are practically the same. But imagine if our if statement had 100 lines of code in it. Then if I'm reading the code, I would need to scroll down 100 lines to find the end of the if statement, and then check to see if there's any other code that would be executed before the loop finishes. With continue, we don't have to do that. We know what happens. As soon as the code gets to continue, the loop starts over again. It's explicit and it's definitive. It says simply, we're done, and we're moving on. It makes our code clearer, both easier to read and easier to understand. Let's try another example using the while loop. So here I've got a simple while loop. You can see that it's basically the same thing that I had with my for loop. I've got my count being initialized. Here's my condition when count is less than or equal to 10. And I'm incrementing here, count plus plus. I'm echoing the count just like I was before, and I've gone back to the other version.
So if there are
Count is equal to
conditions
5, continue.
in which we should
But
be
there's
ignoring a loop,
big difference between
we
this one
can
and
set
the
up
one
an
before.
if
That's why
statement
I've
within the
got
while
what's
loop
wrong with
and
this up here.
set
Because this has a
continue
problem.
for that
Do you see
condition.
what it is? You may want to pause the movie and take a second to look at it and see.
All right, what's wrong with this? If count equals 5, continue, echo, count. Well, it's still going to echo 5. Yeah, you need an else statement. Because the echo is outside of the if statement.
You can figure it out. Walk through the loops with me, step by step. Let's imagine that count is equal to 4. That's less than or equal to 10. It's not equal to 5, so we output 4. Then 4 gets incremented. It becomes 5. We go back to the top of the loop. 5 is less than or equal to 10. Now, count is equal to 5, so we continue. That goes back to the top of the loop, and it evaluates count is less than or equal to 10. What is count now? It's 5 still. We didn't increment it. So it comes down here, count is equal to 5, we hit continue, we go back, we check the condition, and we're stuck in an infinite loop. We never get to this increment that's down here. With for loops, that doesn't happen, because this incrementation is built into the loop. It always does this last step. With for each loops, it also isn't a problem, because those always move to the next element in the array. But with while loops, it's not necessarily true. This incrementation is optional. It's up to us to provide it. So what we really need to do is fix it by making sure that we still increment before we continue. So when count is equal to 5, make it 6, and then go to the next one. It's an important tip in working with while loops and continues. It's a gotcha that can sneak up on you if you're not watching for it. Okay, let's make sure that we fix that. We're not going to bring it up in the browser right now, but I want to show you one last example because there's one more thing you need to know about continue, and that is how to work with continue when you have a loop inside a loop. So here I have one loop. I've got 4, and I'm using I for my counter now. By the way, that's very common when we have loops. It's just to use a simple single-letter variable. So I is counting from 0 to 5. I've got my modulo operator here, so that when we get to an even number, it's going to use continue. Then I've got another loop inside a loop. This one's going to use k, and k is going to count from 0 to 5. And it's going to just echo out I with a hyphen, and then k and a BR tag. Let's take a look and just see what that looks like on its own before we try doing more. Let's come back over to the browser.
Well, I think I know. So if you're doing that, it's going to skip over the even numbers. So it's going to be 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5.
And it's going to just echo out I with a hyphen, and then k and a BR tag.
And then
Let's take a
2-1,
look and see what that looks
2-2,
like on its own
2-3,
before we try doing more. Let's come back over to the browser. Let's reload. You do want to make sure that you fix this problem up here before we come back and try it. Otherwise, you'll have an infinite loop. So you can see that the results I got are 1-0, 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, and then it jumps to 3-0, and then eventually 5-0. Okay, so there's my series that I've generated. Now what I want to do now is I want to add another line here right before the echo. And I'm going to do another continue. Let's say if k, talk about k here, is equal to 3. Not the modulo, but k is actually equal to 3. Then let's continue. Okay? So let's take a look at what that does. Come back over and reload it. And notice that now 1-3 is missing, 3-3 is missing, and 5-3 is missing. And that makes sense. That's what we would expect to happen. Continue continues this loop. Comes back to the top of this loop, therefore just skipping 3 essentially each time on the second loop. But what if we wanted this continue not to apply to the
See, it's hard
innermost
when we're
loop,
talking
but
about
to the
like
outermost
getting in the
loop?
weeds about like
What
loops
if we
like this, like
essentially saying,
not to get
look,
lost
we've
in
got a
just
whole
like
bunch of loops going,
how the
and
hell
we're
does this
looking for
apply
something, and once we find
to
it,
anything
we want
relevant
tell the
to do
parent
with like
that it should continue.
programming.
We don't need to keep
It's just
doing
so
any more
abstract.
loops
Like,
here as well.
why the hell do
So
I
the way
want
that
to
we do that,
count
we can provide an argument
even
to
numbers
continue.
hyphenated with like
Parentheses,
other
and
numbers?
then an integer inside of it. By default,
Oh, you can continue with
has
a
an
number.
integer of 1 as a
Oh,
If we provide another number, like 2, then that tells it that it should continue not just one loop, but 2 loops back. So don't
oh,
just look for
wow.
1, go all the way back to this looping structure and continue that one.
So it
this
should
is this
continue
one,
going
the same as
up
that one.
2
And
levels
then
within the
you see
flow.
difference. And then 2,
That's
is
crazy.
going to skip that one.
I would
Save it.
not know that that's what that means if I saw that in code.
Now, when it gets to 1-3, it doesn't do 1-4 and 1-5. It goes ahead and jumps to the next one, the next iteration using 3. Go back and forth between those two. You need a little more time to understand the difference. Now that we understand how continue works, in the next movie, we're going to take a look at break.
Finally, break. And we can take a
In
break.
this movie, we're going to learn to use break with our loops. We've seen break already. Remember, it was an important part of working with switch statements.
And then
We
array
use break
pointers.
to
I can't
stop
believe
execution in
God.
other cases. And then to
I
actually
thought I was over that when I
We'll use it in a similar way. with loops.
graduated from C.
Break will end execution of the loop.
Yes.
Not just the current iteration,
Break will
but all
end
of the
execution
iterations.
of a
You
loop.
can think of it as breaking out of the loop. In the last movie, for the continue function, I suggested the image of a Hollywood casting director saying next in the middle of an audition that was in progress. Let's continue that metaphor here for a second. Break would be that the casting director watched the two auditions and then said, this is the one. You've got the job, the rest of the auditions are canceled. I don't need to see any more. Break stops the whole process. And it's very useful when we've found what we're looking for or when we've reached a definitive answer to a question. We can stop looking, stop looping, and move on. Let's create an example.
Stop
Let's
looking.
start by taking basic values
Stop
from
looping.
and using save as
Bow, 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 bow.
break.php.
Do, do,
Right?
do, do, do,
And
do.
I'm just going to put in a simple
Ding,
loop,
bing,
and I've got
dum,
continue
bow,
in there.
bow,
The exact
bow.
same loop that we had in the last movie. First, let's just bring up this version and look at it in the browser and remind ourselves what it does. We'll save it, go to Firefox, and instead of continue now, I'm looking at break.php. So there it is. Notice that the 5 is missing because continue told it to skip over the 5. Instead of continue,
Fine.
though, now let's tell it to break.
It'll go to
if the
4.
count is equal
And then
to
it'll.
5, it will break.
Yeah.
Come back here. Notice now,
Yep.
it ended execution completely. It stopped not just this loop and stopped from doing the echo statement, it ended this entire loop. It broke out of it. So once we get here, count is equal to 5, it executes break, and the very next thing it does is it drops down here to the last curly brace and continues processing our PHP code from there. It never goes back and does any of these tests or increments or anything else. It just immediately exits our loop. Break will make your code a lot more efficient. Let's imagine for a moment that you have 20,000 customer records, and we're looking for one record that matches a certain criteria. If we find the one that we want when we get to the 100th loop, do we really need to keep looping for 19,900 more times? No. It's much more efficient to just break out of the loop and to say, I found it, we can stop looping, and move on from here. And since you understand continue, I don't think we need to spend a lot more time with break. I think you get the idea behind it. But I do just want to show you that we also should take a look at what happens when we have a loop inside of it using break. And how we did this with continue. In this example, we're going to continue and provide the argument of 1 or continue 2, still look at the 2. So let's look at this with break. Let's change this second one to be break. Actually, let's remind ourselves first what this does. Just comment out this line. Let's go back to the page. Yeah. And that's what it looks like. That's what it does in the drawings. Now let's uncomment those lines. And then when it gets to k equal to 3, it's going to be
On sleigh! What on me?
1-3.
What's up, homie?
Because I'm lonely during the day, I live stream while I'm learning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep doing
Hey.
Hey, Internet!
Yeah, hey, Matt.
What's up? How are you?
I'm doing well. Who are you live streaming to?
3 people.
Hello, 3 people.
Yeah. This is future YouTube star Booch Douche.
Yeah, dude. Totally. This little bit?
Potentially.
Potentially?
Yeah. I just get lonely, so I live stream my shit.
Where are you live streaming to?
YouTube?
Is anyone watching?
We got 3 people, yeah.
Who are they?
I don't know. Dude, it's the internet.
Learning PHP on Linda, part 5.
Part 5.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
It's been a long day, guys. Give him some of that. Give him some of the super chat.
You doing some PHP?
Dude, I'm learning PHP.
Nice.
Because WordPress is written in it, so yeah. I better know what I'm doing, right?
I like PHP.
Yeah, people hate it, but like so far so good.
It's gotten really good with PHP 7. It's like on par with other languages now.
Nice. Yeah. You guys go now? I might just come out and smoke with you.
Oh, I'm gonna roll one.
Okay.
I'm gonna run to the store real quick, so we'll probably smoke
one. What are you buying?
Fruit.
Okay.
Anything?
No, I got butter, olive oil, and a pack of Reds.
Oh, fuck.
All things I think you might buy.
I had a fucking long ass day at work today.
Dude, you're on the grind.
We had a
And this
multi-family developer conference today.
Multi-family?
Yeah, it's like apartment complexes.
What? What are you saying, Jared?
So my team went to a conference today.
Yes.
Networking event.
Just to like hang out.